Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot on ESPN Fantasy. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be going over my thought process into all of my picks, as well as giving you guys my overall thoughts on how the draft is going, and talking about some picks that maybe I do not like, as well as some picks that I feel like were taken at some great value by the other players inside of this mock draft. But before we get on into it, I just want to ask that if you guys do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, me and the guys at the Awesemo Fantasy Football YouTube channel put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well, and make sure to like the video to help boost it up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. So let's get on into it. Now, drafting in a 10-team league versus a 12-team league, there isn't too many differences, but in a 10-team league, to me, I am more likely to go with one of those early round tight end strategies because I believe that the running back depth is slightly deeper. And I also believe that the positional advantage at the tight end is a lot stronger because in a 10-team league, sure, not everyone is going to have this full-on stacked roster like in an 8-team league, but it is pretty close to it, where everyone has a pretty solid roster. So having that advantage week in and week out of having a guy like Darren Waller, a guy like Travis Kelce in your tight end position that you know is just going to dominate every single game really does help you out a ton. Is that exactly what we're going to be doing in this video? Maybe, maybe not, but I figured that was an important point to get on before we went ahead and talked about the draft. So looking at the draft board right now, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, and Derrick Henry coming off the board, followed by Alvin Kamara. Now, Saquon Barkley going at the 3 hole here is a bit intriguing because Joe Judge is basically saying one thing and then saying another thing every other day. It seemed like a couple days ago that Saquon Barkley had the potential to get shut down up until week number 3 of the NFL season. Now it appears that Saquon Barkley may play in a preseason game. Now, to me, Joe Judge would have to be a bit of a stooge, if I'm being honest with you, to play Saquon inside the preseason. Why would you even risk him potentially getting hurt again? Why not just, chill out a little bit, let him just sit out, have him train a little bit in training camp practice, and then by the time the season starts, you just send him in there and hope that he is going to be fine, or you wait a couple of weeks and you play him at week 2 or week 3. Right now, this is a humongous headache and is a very confusing situation. Would I draft Saquon Barkley at 3? No, but I'd probably consider him around the 5 spot where Ezekiel Elliott goes, Aaron Jones goes, maybe a guy like Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor. That's the range where I would consider picking him, but again, it is definitely a very confusing situation based upon what we know right now. The more we know, the more I will be talking about it on this channel, so make sure that you guys are subscribed. So we are on the board here after Alvin Kamara was Ezekiel Elliott, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. On ESPN, it seems as though Travis Kelce goes in the first round every single time because he's ranked as the 4th highest player. On other websites, typically he's more of a second round pick. So we are on the board here, and my go-to strategy for fantasy football is to get 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. Unless the value just isn't there, then I'm going to go a wide receiver or a tight end or something. But based upon how the board has fallen to us right now, I'm going to go ahead and draft Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones as my 1-2 punch at the running back position for this draft. I believe heavily in both of these running backs to have top 5 potential by the time the season comes to a close. Aaron Jones on the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers now there. It is going to be absolutely insane the amount of touchdowns that this guy can put in and week out. Now, a lot of people will tell you that, hey, Aaron Jones is very touchdown dependent, and while technically he does depend on the touchdowns because the touchdowns give him more points, he had significantly less touchdowns from 2019 to 2020, and guess what? He was still amazing for fantasy football. So to me, there is really no reason to be fading Aaron Jones, especially at the price he is going in the late first round, sometimes falling into the second round. I love that value with Austin Eckler. I love the fact that this guy is just an elite pass-catching running back, but you need to make the distinction from PPR to half PPR to standard. In a standard league, Austin Eckler is still going to be fine, but you should not really be considering him inside of the first round, in my opinion, because so many of his points are going to be coming from these dump-offs, and I believe that this LA Chargers team is going to be even more ferocious in 2021. Putting up even more points game in and game out, and with the fact that the defense should be a lot stronger this year if they are able to stay healthy, then man, maybe they'll be able to run the ball a lot later in the game, and maybe Austin Eckler will be getting even more rushing opportunities than he has gotten in the past, and that we probably would project for this season. Much of Austin Eckler's value comes from the receiving game. Again, he's not a slouch in the running game, but he's not going to be one of those running backs that carries the ball 75% of the time on his team. He's just not going to do that, but with the pass-catching work that he gets on this team, I believe heavily in Austin Eckler. After I went with Aaron Jones came Stephon Diggs, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, DeAndre Hopkins, Joe Mixon, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a very good pick inside of the third round in my mind. Inside the second round, I guess I would be fine doing it, but I don't know. I don't know about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I really do like him because, to be honest with you, he's a very safe running back. He's on one of the most high-octane offenses in the NFL, and he should be able to put up points. A lot of the reason why people are talking negatively about Clyde Edwards-Helaire is because he kind of screwed everyone over last season. But he only fucked you over because you had these super high expectations of him. People thought that he could be a top 5 running back, a top 8 running back, a top 10 running back, paying a extremely high price for a rookie running back, and it frankly just did not pay out at all. But he wasn't shitty. He wasn't bad or anything. He just didn't live up to those expectations. I believe in his sophomore year in 2021, he should put up some solid numbers. The second round, though, I guess I'm fine taking him there. J.K. Dobbins in the second round in a 10-team league is a little bit high, in my opinion, but with so many running backs coming off the board in these first 2 rounds, it almost makes sense at this point. After that, we see Chris Carson open up the third round, followed by George Kittle, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, and Justin Jefferson. George Kittle is one of those players that I am so unsure about. I like the talent that George Kittle possesses, but I'm very, very nervous. DEFCON 5 nervous level here about how this team is going to work once they transfer from Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance. I believe that is going to happen inside of the season. When will it be? I'm not too sure. Will it be a couple weeks in, towards the end of the season, or maybe just like 2 weeks into the season? I don't know, but I believe that Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle have that real big connection, and if they start running the ball more with Lance under center, I'm not too sure how well that's going to pay out. So looking at the board right here, let's see real quick. Did Darren Waller come off the board? He did at pick 27, so we are not going to be able to get him. Our team so far, Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones, you can see on the left side of the screen. So here, we're probably just going to go with a double wide receiver stack here, looking at running back. Nothing too special here for the third or fourth round of a 12-team, or of a 10-team draft, I should say. So first up, I want to go ahead and get Keenan Allen. I understand that maybe some people don't love to draft 2 players on the exact same team, but for me, when I see an offense that I believe is going to be very strong, when I believe that Justin Herbert is going to take an even further step up than he did last year as a rookie, I really like this offense, so I'm fine drafting Allen as well as Austin Eckler. If you want it to be a little bit different, you don't want to draft 2 players on the same team, I completely understand. You could have went with Terry McLaurin and Allen Robinson at this pick, or maybe even CeeDee Lamb or Robert Woods, but to me, the second best wide receiver available here after Keenan Allen is Allen Robinson. Double Allen action here on this team of the Chicago Bears. Now, just like with George Kittle that we discussed a couple of minutes ago, there is definitely some concerns about the quarterback position in Chicago. It's not that Andy Dalton is bad, but it's that overwhelmingly everything I've seen out of training camp, all the videos, all the reports I've read for the Chicago Bears is that Justin Fields is tearing it up and Andy Dalton doesn't look the best. So questions are going to arise with how soon will it be that, Justin Fields takes over. I'm not too sure it'll be instantly, but I do think relatively soon onto the season, Andy Dalton gets sat down. Now, Andy Dalton doesn't suck. Andy Dalton's probably better than Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles were last year, but he's definitely not better than Justin Fields, in my opinion. So, looking at the team so far, we have Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, as well as Allen Robinson. But before we get on into continuing the draft, I just want to let you guys know that today's show is being brought to you by our brand new podcast, Betting You. Who will win the Heisman this year? Can Georgia dethrone Alabama? Which MAC team should you be putting your money on? These questions and more are answered every single Wednesday with Matt Gajowski and Ben Ross as they talk all things college football betting. We have episodes out now on nearly every single podcast platform, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So go ahead and check that out today. I would really appreciate if you guys would do that, and I hope you guys have enjoyed thus far throughout this draft. So after we went ahead and drafted Keenan Allen and Allen Robinson, Miles Sanders came out the board, followed by Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Robert Woods, Josh Jacobs, and Amari Cooper. Now, I'm not sure if I finished completing that thought on Allen Robinson, but my thought is that Allen Robinson has put up these humongous numbers with the likes of Blake Bortles, with the likes of Mitch Trubisky, and with the likes of Nick Foles. So if Justin Fields takes over early on in the season, man, Allen Robinson could genuinely be a top 8 wide receiver, and you're finding him now inside of the 4th round after Amari Cooper, we see Adam Thielen and Cooper Kupp. Josh Jacobs is one of the more interesting picks because I really believe in the skill set that he has, but he is on a grade A terrible situation because John Gruden basically just fucked him over. There's no other way to word it. John Gruden took the offensive line, dismantled it. Sure, it's fine now, right? But he took the offensive line, threw it into a blender. He takes, a backup position for Josh Jacobs and just gives it to Kenyon Drake. Now, Kenyon Drake is not better than Josh Jacobs, but Kenyon Drake is not a slub. Kenyon Drake is much better than any of the other running backs that were backing up Josh Jacobs. So I believe Kenyon Drake is going to be involved in this offense, which severely strangleholds Josh Jacobs' upside. So in the 4th round, sure, he's a very safe running back, but the upside is limited, very limited, especially inside of the receiving aspect of his game. After Cooper Kupp, the 5th round began with Brandon Ayuk, Patty Mahomes, Darrell Henderson, Aaron Rodgers, Julio Jones, Tyler Lockett, Myles Gaskin, and DJ Moore. Seeing Aaron Rodgers come off the board as the quarterback too is one of the more interesting things I've seen. Typically, you see Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, or Lamar Jackson be that guy. Personally, I would definitely lean with any of those players over Aaron Rodgers. Again, not really meaning that Aaron Rodgers sucks, but those other guys' upside are tremendous, especially with the running aspect. Again, Aaron Rodgers is a fine pick, but right behind Patrick Mahomes, to me, that seems a little bit silly. So our team right now, team build 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers. Looking at the wide receivers, I really like Deontay Johnson. Looking at running backs, Chase Edmonds, Travis Etienne, Kareem Hunt, Javonte Williams, Mike Davis. Not in love with any of these guys besides Mike Davis. So first up, we're going to go ahead and snag our wide receiver. Now, Deontay Johnson is one of my must-draft wide receivers for this season because I believe in Deontay Johnson's upside on this team being the #1 pass catcher in Pittsburgh. He clearly is Big Ben's favorite target. There's really no doubt about it. Even when Deontay Johnson is constantly dropping the football, he can't hold on to the football, Big Ben is still force-feeding the ball to him until he gets benched. And I don't think we're going to be seeing that at all this season because he worked on his hands. Obviously, he's been catching the ball a lot more. We even saw it in the preseason Hall of Fame game. We did see Deontay Johnson not struggle with holding on to the ball. He made some solid catches in those games, so I am all in on Deontay Johnson this season. Now, we're going to go ahead and lean running back and get my guy Mike Davis. Now, technically, right now, inside of the 6th round, it is a reach because he is ranked as the 77th highest player on ESPN, but to me, I'm not sure if he'd fall back to me inside of the 7th round or into the 8th round because Mike Davis is one of those running backs to me that is a workhorse running back. I say that he's a workhorse running back because there's really very little competition behind him for someone to potentially really go up there and steal some of Mike Davis's carries. He moves from Carolina to Atlanta. I wrote an article for him today on Awesemo.com. You guys can check those out on the Fantasy Football tab where I really went in detail with just how good Mike Davis was. He obviously is not going to fill the complete role of Christian McCaffrey because Christian McCaffrey is one of the most elite running backs in the National Football League, in both terms. This guy's an elite rusher. He's also an elite pass catcher, so it's hard to fill those shoes completely to the brim. But at the end of the day, he fit that role pretty well, and if you had Christian McCaffrey and you picked up Mike Davis, your season wasn't completely over last year. Now, obviously, Mike Davis is in Atlanta, and they are a very pass-heavy team, a very pass-heavy attack there in Atlanta, but I still believe that they're going to be able to run the ball enough to give Mike Davis a lot of value, and as my running back 3, who's not even necessarily my flex right now, I feel very, very comfortable with Mike Davis being my running back 3, and if anything was to happen with Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler, I really think that he could fill that role very perfectly as my running back 2 on the team. I think he does have top 12 potential, especially if he is carrying the rock at a very high rate, and in the past, we have seen Matt Ryan dumped the ball off to Devonta Freeman in the past. Devonta Freeman has had very big seasons for fantasy football last year. A lot of people had super high hopes for Todd Gurley, and obviously Todd Gurley didn't live up to that because of the injury, but had Todd Gurley not have gotten hurt, then he probably would have put up a pretty solid season. He was getting drafted inside of the 3rd or 4th round last year, and that motherfucker had knee arthritis. He had knee arthritis that everyone knew about. His injury risk was so high. People still drafting him in the 3rd round. Mike Davis going the 6th, the 7th round in some of these drafts. To me, the proof should be in the pudding here. It should be very obvious that Mike Davis should be a guy that you should be targeting. After Mike Davis came Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, T. Higgins, Mark Andrews, Kyler Murray, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jamar Chase Tyler, Boyd, Odell Beckham Jr., Chase Claypool, Chase Edmonds, Dak Prescott, TJ Hawkinson, and Cortland Sutton. TJ Hawkinson inside of the 7th round is one of the biggest steals of this draft. Now, again, I'm of the belief that if you draft a tight end, you're either got to be one of those guys that drafts the top 5 tight ends, or a gal. You know, you could be a girl playing fantasy football. Shout out to you if you're watching this. So you want to get either one of those top 5 tight ends, meaning a Kyle Pitts, maybe. Kyle Pitts to me is my 6th best tight end, but he's in that range. So I guess the top 6. So where you have Mark Andrews, you have Darren Waller, you have George Kittle, you have Travis Kelce, you have Kyle Pitts, and you have Mark Andrews, and then you have, I think I've named players multiple times, and then you have TJ Hawkinson. Those are those top 5, top 6 guys. So either draft one of those, or to me, you just wait until the end of the draft and you draft a guy like Irv Smith, a Tyler Higbee, a Mike Gesicki, one of those guys with high upside. Because if you're taking those shots in the middle rounds at tight end, there's a pretty good shot that those guys just aren't the greatest. So I normally continue to wait if I don't get one of those guys, but Kyle Pitts is still available, and I haven't really talked about him too much on the Awesemo channel, so I will draft him in this video. Now, with Kyle Pitts, a lot of narratives are pointing against him, especially statistics from the past. In the last decade, only one rookie tight end has finished inside of the top 5. Kyle Pitts, much more of a freak athlete than Evan Ingram, much more of this highly touted prospect, so he easily could do it. But I think when people are drafting him in the 4th round, in the 5th round, that's a little bit crazy, but we got him in the 8th round, so at that price, I'm willing to pay for it. A lot of fantasy football is not whether you like a player or not, because I like every single player at a certain price. It's about where you end up drafting him. So inside the 8th round, I'm excited to have Kyle Pitts on my roster. I'm fine having 2 players on the same team on my roster, especially when Mike Davis isn't even going to be an every week starter for my team. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the flex. We're going to wait on the quarterback position. Looking at the board right now, the running backs have really fallen off, so we're probably just going to go wide receiver here, and we're going to go ahead and draft a very high upside pick here, maybe a slight reach based upon my rankings, because I do like Brandon Cooks more, but I really want to talk about Jerry Jeudy. Now, reports and everything I've seen out of training camp for the Denver Broncos yesterday was that Drew Lock is actually looking really good. And also, that Courtland Sutton may be more healthy than Vic Fangio let on a couple of, last week. So if Sutton is more healthy, to me, that actually helps Jerry Jeudy, because last year, Jerry Jeudy was just the #1 target on this team. He's getting locked in on because Courtland Sutton got hurt so early on in the season. Had Courtland Sutton not have gotten hurt, in my opinion, I actually think that Jerry Jeudy would have had a much better rookie season. I'm all in on him this year in 2021. Whether Sutton is good or not, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be all over the football. He struggled immensely with drops, but again, you can really blame the quarterback position for a lot of that. Drew Lock made a lot of bad plays last season. Drew Lock is looking a lot better in training camp right now. Does training camp necessarily translate to the NFL? Fuck no, right? He could look amazing in training camp, but when the bright lights are on, Drew Lock could go limp. He could just not play good at all. But to me, the signs that he's looking better are good. And guess what happens if Drew Lock plays bad? You know what happens? You don't have to deal with Drew Lock anymore. They're going to eventually just yank him out of there, and they're going to throw in Teddy Bridgewater, and Jerry Jeudy will be fine in that scenario as well. So if there's a nice fail-safe, a safe fail, what is that called? A fail-safe, like a backup plan there if things do go awry and Drew Lock just stinks. After Jerry Jeudy came Logan Thomas, Robbie Anderson, Brandon Cooks, Russell Wilson, Laviska Shenault, Michael Gallup, Will Fuller the fifth, Jarvis Landry. Now, Jarvis Landry, he's a fine, safe pick in fantasy, but what the hell are you doing drafting him inside the 8th round? Like, what's the upside of Jarvis Landry? This is one of the most run-heavy teams in the NFL, and he's the wide receiver 2 there behind Odell. And what if Odell has a good season? Then Jarvis is going to shrivel up. I mean, I don't really believe in Odell, but I don't know. There's just no upside with Jarvis Landry. In what world does he finish as a top 10 wide receiver? It's not like he's in Miami anymore, where he was able to do that consistency. They just don't throw the ball enough for him to really be able to do that. After Jarvis Landry came Justin Herbert. The 9th round begins with Antonio Brown, Buccaneers defense, Dallas Goedert, Javonte Williams, DJ Chark, and Curtis Samuel. Now, I know some people will get disappointed in these mocks when you see a defense going the 9th round, the 10th round, but if I'm being honest with you guys, in most of my leagues, I'm playing with my friends who watch my videos. They watch the videos on here on Awesemo. Make sure you subscribe if you've enjoyed so far. They watch these videos. They still draft defenses early because they want to get that defense that they want. People do it all the time, so it's honestly very realistic when people end up doing something crazy like that. So after the Bucs defense came Dallas Goedert, Javonte Williams, DJ Chark, Curtis Samuel, Raheem Mostert, James Robinson, and Devontae Smith. We're going to be looking at the board here, wide receiver or running back. Let's click on running backs real quick. Running backs available: Damian Harris, Zach Moss, Leonard Fournette, David Johnson, Kenyon Drake, James Conner. Michael Carter is going to be the pick here. I do like Damian Harris a lot more. So I think we're just going to go, or not a lot more. I like both of them. So we're going to get both of them on this turn here at the 9-10 round range here. I like Michael Carter because to me, he is the clear running back one in New York for the Jets. Obviously, the Jets are not going to be a very run-heavy team because as a whole, the team is going to be down in a lot of these games. But I do believe that Michael Carter showed a lot at UNC as a pass catcher, and all these reports out of camp are pointing towards the direction that he is the running back one here. Damian Harris, a lot of reports, Damian Harris is the guy in New England. Now I know, Nick, don't draft New England running backs. It's a trap. I know. It honestly kind of is a trap because every year they never go with the just running back one there. But a lot of things are pointing towards him being the guy there. And even if he isn't just getting the lion's share of carries, something insane, you still got him in the 10th round. So what are you losing on drafting him? Not much. This is where you're drafting running backs that have an inkling of potentially being the running back one there. Melvin Gordon, James Conner, Leonard Fournette, Zach Moss. Those are not locked and loaded running back ones on their team. Whereas to me, at least I believe that Damian Harris will be getting the carries, at least at the beginning. If he sucks, then Bill Belichick doesn't really have a high tolerance for you if you fucking suck, if I'm being honest with you. He'll just pull you out. But I believe that Damian Harris is skilled enough to do that, and I believe that he's a very solid pass catcher, but we have yet to see it at the NFL. We did see it when he was in his collegiate days at Alabama just a couple of years ago. So after we went with Michael Carter and Damian Harris on the turn, we see David Johnson, Deebo Samuel, Melvin Gordon III, Hollywood Brown, Noah Fant, Cole Beasley, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, and the Ravens defense. Following those picks were James Conner, and the 11th round began with Jalen Waddle, Harrison Butker, Henry Ruggs III, Leonard Fournette, Corey Davis, and Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor looking good in camp. Maybe second-year breakout. Maybe. I mean, I love Devontae Smith. So, I don't know. I think Devontae Smith's the alpha guy there, but maybe Jalen Reagor does light it up. You never know. So, after Jalen Reagor came Ryan Tannehill and Marvin Jones. We are just one pick off of diving back in to some assessments of some players. We still don't have a quarterback, so that's probably where we're going to lean with at least one of these, or with one of these picks. Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, all available. Jalen Hurts has such high upside, and it appears Deshaun Watson is not going to get traded. That the calls are simmering down. He practiced today in pads. Is he going to play in Houston? Maybe. So maybe Jalen Hurts is the pick here. If you're looking for super high upside, Hurts is the guy. But to me, there's a lot of risk with Jalen Hurts, but we are in a 10-team league, so I'm going to take the risk on Jalen Hurts. I think he has top 5 potential due to his immense rushing upside. But I'm not too sold in on the fact that we saw enough to believe that he's a top 10 quarterback to be drafting, but that's where he's going. If you wanted to be a little bit safer, you go with Burrow or Matthew Stafford, who is probably the safest quarterback going in this range because of the weapons he has, and the move to LA, to me, just points really well in the potential for Matthew Stafford to have a really good season. Looking at the board here, normally at the wide receiver position, Mike Williams would be the pick here, but we already have so many Chargers guys. I'm not trying to draft another, so I'm going to go with Darnell Mooney here, wide receiver of the Chicago Bears, and we also already have Allen Robinson, so I guess that was a bit of a fugazi argument here I made against Mike Williams, but then you have just the whole fucking Chargers offense, basically. If you do that, Darnell Mooney, obviously a bench piece for my team, but could be making a lot of starts. He is a speedster at the NFL level. He's the clear wide receiver 2 there after they got rid of Anthony Miller. Again, I think his upside is going to be pushed up even further by Justin Fields getting under center, just like with Allen Robinson, but I'm still fine taking him here, even if Andy Dalton's the guy for a decent amount of the season. But real quick, before we keep going in on these matchups and into this draft, I would like to let you guys know that we have a brand new YouTube channel for sports betting too. If you love what we do on the DFS channel, and you love what we do here on the fantasy football channel, then you are going to want to subscribe to the Awesemo Odds channel. You can find the link in the description of this video, so go ahead, subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and get ready for what we have in store on there. If you guys want some additional free content, we also offer our rankings in front of the paywall on Awesemo.com on the fantasy football tab. We also offer stuff on the Awesemo Odds tab, where you can find the Odds Shopper and our MLB betting tools, which include our sports betting model, our player props tool, so make sure that you guys do check that out. So we're back up on the board here. We already have a tight end, so I'm not trying to draft a backup. I like Irv Smith a lot, but we already have a tight end that I believe in, so we're going to go ahead here and just draft our 2 bench players and then get on out of here. So looking at the board here at running back, Ronald Jones is still available. I didn't even notice that he was available. I don't know why on ESPN they just hate on Ronald Jones for some reason. If he's not available here, I probably would have went with Nyheim Hines, but I'm going to take him here. Ronald Jones probably going to be the starter in Tampa Bay. I know they they play that kind of system where it's the hot hand approach. If Rojo is to fuck up, then he's going to get benched for Leonard Fournette. But I don't know. To me, it just seems like Ronald Jones is the much better talent, and he's definitely going at a discount here. And then we're going to go ahead and snag a wide receiver before we head on out of here. And we're going to go ahead and get Mr. Nelson Aguilar of the New England Patriots. He appears to be the #1 wide receiver on this team based upon all of the reports out of training camp. So that's going to make me want to draft him. Even if I don't love the passing attack in New England, it's still a wide receiver 1 potentially on a team inside of the 14th round with basically my last pick, because I don't really count the defense or the kicker. You wait all the way until the end to do that. First up, we snag the kicker normally because that's the guy that's going to be in your lineup a lot of these games, in my opinion, the kicker, whereas the defense is a bit more stagnant. I try to switch my defense in and out weekly with a new defense playing up against a positive matchup for the defense, whereas for kicker, unless my kicker completely sucks, right? Unless I draft like a Josh Lambo or something, I'm just looking to keep the same guy every single week. My target here would be my boy, Younghoe Koo of the Atlanta Falcons. I love Younghoe Koo. This guy is dangerous. He absolutely sucked in LA for the Chargers, if you guys remember, back in the day a couple of years ago. But he really started some things up in Atlanta, and he looks really good. So I'm very excited to get Younghoe Koo onto my team if he ends up falling to me at the end of the 15th round. And then for defense, like I was saying, I just stream defenses. So I'm going to draft a random defense here. But in the videos coming soon for the mock drafts, I will be talking about defenses that I actually want to target based upon their matchups. We're going to draft our kicker first. We're going to draft the boy Younghoe Koo of the Atlanta Falcons. Then defense, we're just going to click on the best available. But again, that's not exactly what I want to be doing. I think just sticking with the same defense every single week is one of the dumbest things you can do in fantasy football. Because even if you have one of the stronger defenses in the NFL, they have bad matchups. They do. And you know what's even stupider than that, if I'm being honest with you? Drafting 2 defenses and rotating them in and out every single week. Because what are the odds? There's going to be a lot of weeks in the season when they both have bad matchups, and that's not going to be the greatest for you. So we're going to go ahead and look onto the, I pointed the wrong way, this side of the screen here, because for some reason ESPN doesn't have a big screen here to look at our team. So on the left, our team to finish this draft, our quarterback is Jalen Hurts. Our running backs are Austin Eckler and Ron Jones. Wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Allen Robinson. Tight end, Kyle Pitts. Flex, Deontay Johnson. Kicker, defense don't really matter too much. Mike Davis, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Carter, Damian Harris, Darnell Mooney, Ronald Jones, and Nelson Aguilar on the bench. If this was my real team, I would have 100% confidence that we were taking home all the money at the end of this year. This was the easiest draft. This is like one of the best teams I've ever drafted in a mock draft. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below in the comment section what you thought. I always reply to the comments. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure you subscribe. Check out everything in the description. Awesemo Odds channel as well. I love you guys. Stay safe as always. Good boy.